Rick, you laid out a scenario for Kenny Payne to remain at the University of Louisville. Some of the steps that he would hope to be taken. You mentioned a couple of 5-star level recruits, which are nothing to be sneezed at Louisville, who are considering the Cardinals, one of whom I think is expected to commit this week, perhaps. Tell us what went into that column and what path back you see for Kenny Payne.
Well, let me say this up front. I understand the anger, and I mentioned that right off the bat, that he hasn't done enough to deserve a third year. And I know that fans are mad, and the majority of fans are mad, and most people don't want to hear this. But Kenny Payne still has at least 2.5 weeks to go in this season, and he hasn't quit yet. And he's out there trying to find a path forward. And I think the path forward he has presented so far, or is trying to present, is one worth discussing and writing about, and a lot of people read it. And it would be this: 2 top 15, top 20 recruits, one in the class of 24, the other in the class of 25, who's going to reclassify, are this close to committing to Louisville. And I think they will commit to Louisville if they get a guarantee that Kenny Payne will be the coach next year. Now, we'll get to the rest of that topic in a second. And the other thing is, I think he realizes if he comes back, he's going to have to make changes, and changes would include his coaching staff. So whether that's going to be enough to carry the day with 4 regular season games to go and the ACC tournament, I don't know. But he is working at trying. He's aware of what the situation is, for sure.
Well, and people, they just want to see their opinion reflected in what everybody writes, but it's not always the case. We had this back after Christmas. People were mad at me when I said, wait a minute, this may not happen. Everybody's talking and the radio's going. He's going to get fired any day. It's all happening, and there's national reports. And what winds up happening is he's still the coach. So you do have to kind of present all of the scenarios, or else people are going to say, well, nobody talked about this. They fooled everybody. I don't really see, and I've said for a while, I don't really see a scenario where he comes back. And my column last week about the financial situation at Louisville and the crowds and how do you sell a third season, those are formidable obstacles to him coming back. But one of the ways that you sell the season coming ahead is recruiting. And if that status quo changes, and let's face it, Louisville, I can't think of a class, unless you go way back to Denny Crum, where there were 2 5-stars in the same class. Perhaps that's something that gives people pause to think, okay, wow, this would be something.
Yeah, and at least one of those guys, and probably both of them, need to commit before we would get to this point. You can't say they're only going to commit unless they're sure Kenny Payne's going to come back. Even if they commit now, they can't sign anything till April. He needs the positive vibes of these guys saying, we want to come play for Louisville. Yeah. So this should be an interesting week to see. As you've heard and I've heard, one of them could commit this week.
Yeah. So that, we continue to watch. We all know the direction everybody thinks it's going. But, at this point, it's not going to get there until the end of the season. So we're just kind of waiting to see and trying to cover all the bases, as it were. You can catch every episode of Overtime on WDRB+.
Download the app on your phone or TV today.